And so today we continue this series about emotions. What about emotions? What would Jesus say, or what did Jesus say about these different emotions? And today we're going to talk about the emotion of joy. What did Jesus say about that? And I really think man, I'm just like, okay, Lord, I didn't even notice this, right? But man, you got me talking about joy on Mother's Day, and man, I just feel, because as a dad, right? I'm like, you don't even have to. I don't care, whatever. We could eliminate Father's Day, and I wouldn't even care. But I just there's a special place in my heart for mothers, and so I'm like, man, it's such a joy-filled time and a blessing, and I know dads have to be involved in order for there to be moms. I know. I got that right. I took biology class and all that. So, but there's just a special place in my heart for mothers, and so but anyway, so I just God just overflows us with joy in these times, and I just thank you, ladies, for saying yes, Lord, use me. I'll be a vessel. I'll be a vessel, literally, right, and metaphorically, right. I'll be a vessel, and I will bring into this world another child, another creation that you've created, right? And the guys usually are just saying, well, thanks for letting me be a part of that. And because otherwise there'd be no mothers, right? So anyway, um, some of you, as I said earlier, sometimes there are those who, and I'm not saying this in this room, but there are those who have said to me, I didn't do so good as a mom. I was in my place, not mothering place, right? And I just want you to know this. This is something God laid on my heart this week. He wants you to understand. He knows maybe you weren't perfect at this whole mothering thing. He understands you had shortcomings. He understands that you failed in areas, but he wants you to know he was there the whole time, and he's there now. And he wants you to know he's so proud of you. He's so thankful for you saying yes. And he loves you, and he loves your children. It's going to be okay. Let's just go forward. Let's just go forward, because that's what's most important. And he wants you to have your heart filled with joy today. And so and that's something he just laid in my heart earlier this week. And I'm just like, wow, okay, Lord. All right. And so I don't know about the rest of you, but as far as guys, but I know I can be, when it comes to our marriage and our rearing children, I have to be humble enough to be able to admit that, oh, she was way better at the parenting thing than I was. And so praise God there was a mother in our household. So um, anyway, let's go. John 16, verse 16. Jesus went on to say, in a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me. At this, some of his disciples said to one another, what does he mean by saying, in a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me, in because I am going to the Father? They kept asking, what does he mean by a little while? We don't understand what he is saying. Jesus saw them, and Jesus saw that they wanted to talk to him, to ask him. Wow, troubles with my words today. Jesus saw that they wanted to ask him about this, and he said to them, are you asking one another what I meant when I said, in a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me? Very truly I tell you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come, but when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So with you. Now if your time now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. In that day you will no longer ask me anything. Very truly I tell you, my Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. And I got to tell you, that scripture was already in this, And now here we are on Mother's Day, and he's bringing us back once again. And I don't know what that special message is in there. There's not gonna be this great epiphany at the end, okay? I'm just telling you straight up, God had a plan when he talked today. He said, today's the day we're gonna preach on joy. Today's the day we're gonna share that. And the scripture that was already in here, right? The scripture that was not, I did not add that this week, right? But talking about that joy, that a woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy, right? That a child is born into the world. Man of living. The joy, mamas, again, just happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. So what did Jesus say about joy? Does anyone remember Balky's dance of joy? Does anyone remember Balky and his cousin Larry? Okay, so we got a couple. Do we remember Perfect Strangers? Balky and his dance of joy. For those of you who missed this classic, beautiful TV series, about Balky comes from, and I forget the name of the country. I should have looked it up, but I forget where he came from. Probably a made-up country, if I remember right. But he comes and he unexpectedly shows up at his cousin, the American Larry, at his house. And Balky teaches Larry how to love life, and Larry teaches Balky how to act, well, what Larry likes to consider normal and American, right? And so, but Balky, one of the beautiful things he teaches cousin Larry is the dance of joy. So check this out.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Hey, hey, hey.
What I was going to say is, now let's stand up. Let's do the dance of joy. There's one time when Balky does this with Larry, and Larry's like, no, I don't want to. And they're in a restaurant, okay? And so Balky's holding him, right? And a couple seconds later, Larry's like, you can put me down now. No, cousin, and so joy, but so much joy. They did this. This happened also. There was another time in one of the other scenes where they're on a double date, first dates with these girls, and Balky leads the entire restaurant in a dance of joy, right? And so, but he had so much joy in his life, he just overflows with that joy. Balky's always the one who's super happy, right? There's when he gets down a little bit, cousin Larry helps him come up, right? Because we all get down a little bit here and there. But man, living, he taught it. Man, if you watch that series, you cannot walk away from that series without being filled with joy, because he just does, right? There's another song that says, joy, joy, joy down in my heart to stay. Joy, joy, joy down in my heart to stay. How can you not have joy when you're around that, right? How can you not have joy when you're around that Balky, and maybe you have a Balky in your life? And how can you not have joy when you're around that? So we've looked at what Jesus said through this series. So far, we've looked at what he said about love, hate, and fear. And today, we're going to look at this joy thing. Jesus talks about us being happy. He instructs us to be happy. He instructs us to be joyful. Sometimes I think in the church, we have a tendency to try to divide the two, that happy and joy are something totally different. Happy's because of external circumstances, and joy's from an internal thing. And I don't know that that's right. I don't believe that's right. I believe the two are connected very much. And oftentimes, I've had people tell me how happy they are, but they look absolutely miserable. But I'm joyful in my heart. No, you're not, because your face ain't showing it. Right? And so, and I think that the church has a tendency to, I've heard many sermons over the years of dividing the two up. And I don't know. I think I struggle with that a lot. And so some people will say, I'm not very demonstrative with my emotions. I'm not, I just keep them inside. When you have the joy of Christ, you're not going to keep it inside. When you have the joy of Balky, you can't keep it in. So imagine if you have the joy of Christ. And so, man, we need to remember some school song. Remember the Sunday school song? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And man, there's some Christians out there who are claiming to be all full of joy for Christ. Their face has not figured it out. They haven't sent the memo, right? And even non-Christians, right? But right now I want to focus on Christians, but the reality is I know you've got that neighbor who's an atheist, or you got that neighbor who they don't do that church thing or whatever, and they're grumpy Gusses. But as a follower of Jesus Christ, I don't see how we could possibly be grumpy Gus. I just don't. And so anyway, as Jesus tells his followers, as we read through our scriptures, read through our New Testament, Jesus tells them that they should leap for joy. He talks about being filled with joy. He talks about the sadness would turn to joy. He talks about abundant joy. He talks about how nobody can steal their joy. Jesus instructs us to be joyful over and over and over and over again. He also seems that when we read about it, it seems to me he might be indicating that it's a choice. That we can actually choose to be joyful. Paul's really good about that too. And we're going to talk about Paul in a little, I shouldn't say we're going to talk about Paul, but we're going to see what Paul said about that here in just a little bit. But my goodness, how can we, if it's a choice, why do we not want to choose to be happy? Why do we not want to choose to be joyful? And, I think some of it has to do with how do you define joy? And so I'm going to butcher this first name. I was looking at what do some people how do they describe joy, right? Thich Nhat Hanh, you should see how it's spelled if you think that's bad. He said this. He said, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, and sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. Sounds like it might be a choice. Might have something going there. Mark Twain said, to get the full value of joy, you must, to get the full value of joy, you must have someone to divide it with. You can't keep joy and just keep it's down in my heart. I got it hidden inside. He's saying, no, you got to share it. If you got joy, you want joy, it's got to be shared. If you want to live it to the full. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a priest over in France. He said this. He said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. I think he's on to something. Tagore said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. I think he's on to something. And, of course, the great American scholar and theologian Goldie Hawn said, if we could just let go and trust that things will work out the way they're supposed to, without trying to control the outcome, then we can begin to enjoy the moment more fully. The joy of freedom it brings becomes more pleasurable than the experience itself. I don't think she was talking in a God perspective, but I don't think she was totally off either. If we spend so much time being anxious and worked up over things, so much time, we give our time to anger, frustration, and all that. And if we would instead say, you know what, it's going to work out the way it's going to work out. I'm doing what God called me to do, and therefore I'll be joyful in it. If we can get that down, if we can get that figured out, I'm going to be happy and rejoice in it. Whatever it is, if we can get that figured out, that's what she's saying is if we just leave, don't worry about the end, just do what you're supposed to do, just keep going forward. Again, I don't think she was talking about following Jesus necessarily, but man, the joy will be there. The joy will be there. And the truth of the matter is, either you can control your emotions or your emotions will control you. And unfortunately, far too many times in my life, I know I've allowed my emotions to control me. And I pray that as we walk each day, we gain a better understanding, a better get to that place where we control our emotions versus them controlling us. So why should we be joy-filled? John 15, verse 11, Jesus says this. He says, I have told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. So number one, Jesus desires you be joy-filled. Jesus desires that you are joy-filled. He desires that I'm joy-filled. Jesus wanted his followers to be joy-filled. He wanted his disciples. He wanted not just the 12, but all the disciples. Whenever they were in earshot of him, he's teaching them to be joy-filled. And he desires that we're joy-filled. He says, if we will, notice the wording, he says, so that you will be filled with my joy, Jesus' joy, not my joy, not your joy, but Jesus' joy will be filled with it. And he says what? He says, and your joy will overflow. Guess what? It's going to spill over, and everyone around me is going to get some joy splashed all over them. Not my joy, but Jesus' joy splashed all over them. I pray that, Lord, they drown in it. Okay? He wants us to be, he desires that we be joy-filled. He calls us to it, and everything he teaches us, everything he taught, teaches us today, everything was about us being happy and joy-filled in him, okay, with his joy, not the world's joy, because that's pretty deceiving, okay? The devil will tell you can swim around in poo and it's going to be time. You're going to enjoy it. Jesus is never going to tell you that, right? And I was just saying, right? So joy-filled with his joy. Unfortunately, I've talked to a lot of people who, you talk to them about, would you like to come join us, right? Invite them to come be part of this congregation. Invite them to come to church. Unfortunately, when they describe a Christian, joy is way down the list quite often anymore when it comes to a descriptive of a Christian. And that tells me we're out there as Christ followers, or at least claiming it, and we're telling the world there's no joy because we're not living in joy. And we're obviously not allowing Christ to fill us with his joy, and that it would be overflowing to the world around us. It breaks my heart. Mark Twain once described a gentleman he knew, and it really fits a lot of Christians today to a T. He said this, when he described him, he said, the man was a solemn, unsmiling, sanctimonious old iceberg that looked like he was waiting for a vacancy on the Trinity. Cold. He says unsmiling, so obviously grumpy, right? He's solemn, not joy-filled, waiting for a vacancy on the Trinity. You know what that's saying? Kind of thinks he's God. Wants to fill in for God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit. And sadly, there's a lot of Christians who are doing that nowadays. But Mark Twain didn't live this year, right? It's been going on for a while. But that's okay, because today we're going to talk about joy, right? And today going forward, even if you've been in that situation, if that might have described you yesterday or even this morning when you walked in, if that might have described you, it's okay, because today's a new day and we're moving forward, and let the joy of Jesus Christ overflow you. Now, when Jesus was in the garden a few hours before his betrayal, his mock trial, and his murder, and he was in the garden, he was in prayer, and part of his prayer in John 17, verse 13 says this. He's talking to God, right? Prayer. And so now I am coming to you. I told them being those you gave me, right? The disciples, in whatever number that is, right? Now I am coming to you. I told them many things while I was with them in this world, so they would be filled with my joy. I shared all that I shared so they would be filled with my joy. if we will receive what Jesus Christ has shared with us, Jesus says we'll be filled with his joy and not the world's joy. So one of his last thoughts before he goes to the cross, he knows he's going. He knows what's next. He knows what's coming, right? And Jesus, one of his last thoughts is that you and I would be filled with his joy. And if that, I personally think that's probably a good enough reason we could, done, there, that's a good reason. Now let's go be filled with Jesus' joy. But we might have some others that would like to have other reasons. So number two would be being joy-filled will give you a better life. Being joy-filled will give you a better life. And some of you might want to discount this, whatever, you know. But let me just play this out for you. Do you believe that your attitude makes a difference in where you go in life? Right? Opportunities are open to you. You go be Grumpy Gus. Nobody's offering me a job. I walk in and can't figure out why I ain't getting a job. Or I can walk in. I'm looking for the job, right? Maybe you're not even looking for a job. You walk in, or you walk into the business, or you walk in wherever, and you're just in to buy something, and they see the joy, and they're like, man, you should work here, right? I've been offered all kinds of jobs because people are like, man, I just like your attitude. Now, they didn't see me on the other days, right? And so, but no, seriously though, right? I mean, come on. Andy Andrews wrote this. He said, people want to be around happy people, not whiners, moaners, and groaners. Happy people get more opportunities because opportunities come from people, and people are attracted by happy people. People are attracted by joy-filled people. Imagine if they're attracted by joy-filled, worldly joy-filled people, imagine how much more attracted they would be to those who are filled with Jesus' joy and overflowing, splashing all over them, and maybe drowning them in it, right? And I have had some people who said, just got to knock it off, be crabby, you're so happy. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to drown. It's okay, you know. But anyway, but it's the truth, right? If you don't believe that it makes a difference and that opens up opportunities, let me share this with you then. If you're an employer, think about this, and most of us aren't employers, right? But if we were an employer, think about it, and I have two candidates that I need to hire, I need to fill. I have one position I need to fill. Two candidates, they both are equally, they got the right education, they got the right experience, they got everything, they got all the qualifications, but I got Grumpy Gus over here grumbling and groaning the whole time, and I got Happy Harry over here who's just joy-filled and overflowing. Who are you going to hire? I don't want Grumpy Gus with me. I've worked with a lot of Grumpy Gus's, and I've been Grumpy Gus, and people didn't want to work with me. Okay, and so I don't want to hire Grumpy Gus. I want to hire Happy Harry over here, and I'm going to hope that's the Holy Spirit overflowing right on out of him, right? But I want that happy face. It's not the grumpy face. I want the happy, overflowing heart, the joy-filled heart, rather than that Grumpy Gus heart. Think about it. You ever been on the phone? And unfortunately, I've been on both sides of this phone call, right? I've been both sides of this phone call, I should say. You know, you call in, you need that helpline, right? You know how many people them people talk to? You know? And you're on that call. Okay, so when do you get better service? I'm so mad my cable ain't working. Oh, sorry, sir, we lost the call. That might have happened to me once. It's been quite a few years back, but it might have happened to me once. Or when you call and go, you know, I know it's not your fault, but we're having this issue, and we need some assistance with it, that sort of thing, right? Or what I like to do is whenever I call, and some people get me crabby at me for it, I just say like, hey, young lady, how you doing today? I'm on a call, right? A phone call, just a call center, right? How you doing today? Well, usually it catches them off guard. Well, I'm doing well. How are you doing today? And then they're like, okay, so how can I help you? And so, we get to business. I have had the ones who are like, what do you need? Like, well, I'm sorry. This is what I've said on multiple occasions. I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I really am. Having some trouble with the phone, or with the cable, I mean, and was just wondering, right? Who do you want to talk to? You're not really feeling like all the love and warm and fuzzy for that person who's a grumpy Gus right off the bat and telling you how big of an idiot you are, and you're just answering a phone call. You're going to go off the computer prompts. You have no idea what to do. Or the one who's like, hey, it's not your fault, right? Being joy-filled makes a difference. It opens opportunities. It opens opportunities for conversation. It opens opportunities. In fact, some of those, quite a few of those actually, in the last few years, have ended up in prayer, being able to pray for someone. A couple of those were those, go, what do you want? And then we get to talking, and I still just be happy, and eventually get to be able to pray for them because you can tell there's something going on. And it's interesting how many times they're crying on the other end of that call. Because I'm still joy-filled. I'm sorry you're having a crummy day, right? So, number three, being joy-filled is good for you. Being joy-filled is good for you. If you don't believe me, then maybe you believe Solomon. Proverbs 17, verse 22. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. It's been proven, scientific research, because we don't believe Solomon, from 3,000 years ago, so scientists had to prove it. It's been proven that when you're smiling, when you're happy, it's better on your health. It's been proven over and over again. What it does is as you smile or laugh, even this blows me away, even forced laughter. So like when I do a dad joke, and you all are like, well, Pastor wants us to laugh now, so we're going to chuckle a little, right? Even that, what it does is even the false smile, the false laugh, even that, your body will release endorphins into your body, which make you more cheerful. So it's that old fake it till you make it mentality, right? So maybe I'm not really feeling joyful today. Excuse me as I leak. I'm not really feeling joyful today, but you know what? I don't want you to know that. I'm going to smile. I'm going to chuckle a little. Maybe I'm going to crack a joke, right? Why? Because it also helps me, and that's a choice. And as a follower of Jesus Christ, and I'm choosing to be filled with His joy, so now that it said something a minute ago about our joy being overfilling, right? That our joy would overflow. Again, we're going to drown them, okay? And so, but the reality, the truth is that scientifically they've proven that the body releases these endorphins and it gives you a feeling of well-being. In fact, they say that according to the scientists, which I believe Solomon before them, but whatever, but they say that it actually will reduce pain. And I know this to be true because here's the thing. Right now I have zero pain in my neck. Zero. Okay? This evening when I sit down to go, okay, my neck is most likely going to start hurting again. Been doing it for months and months and months. But you know the interesting thing? It never hurts when I'm enjoying things, when I'm having fun, when I'm laughing, when I'm sharing Jesus' word. It never, ever hurts. It'll hurt when I sit down and I'm just hanging, right? It literally, the endorphins from smiling, people are like, what are you smiling at? And this is kind of part of my thing too, is I have fun with it because they'll be like, what are you smiling at? Don't know, do you? Makes them worried, They're kind of like, oh, what's he doing, right? But they'll be like, what are you smiling at? And I'll be like, I'm just happy. I'm just full of joy. I can't keep it in. It's not, I just want to share it, right? And I've made grumpy people start smiling. They're like, you're crazy. And they'll do that. They'll start smiling. You're crazy. Yeah, crazy for Jesus. I'm okay with that. I'm just happy. I just want you to be happy, right? And it truly works, right? So it's good for you. So we know that it's good for us. It's healthy for us. Is Jesus desires that we're joy filled. Um, have to do to become joy filled? What do we need to do to become joy filled? Oh, by the way, we do understand what happens when we don't, when we choose not to be joy filled. We understand what happens, right? When we're anxious all the time, we're angry all the time, when we're all worked up all the time. Those things called ulcers, those things called high blood pressure, those things called heart issues that you shouldn't have because it's not even a family thing. It's nothing, right? But over the years, we get anxious. We don't sleep, right? It literally, our anger, or our frustration, our unjoyfulness that we've chosen ends up making us physically ill, and it's been proven over and over and over again. So, what do we need to do to become joy-filled? Number one, we become joy-filled by being content. We become joy-filled by being content. No matter the situation, there's always something to complain about. I don't care what situation. Some of you are in here right now, and we've been talking joy, and we've been laughing, we've been smiling, we've been having fun, right? And some of y'all who don't normally smile have actually smiled this morning. I'm proud of you, Steve. And so, no, I'm just kidding. And now the rest of you have. So, okay. But the reality is that we can. Every situation we're in, some of you might be sitting here and some of you are going, just get over it, right? And are we done yet, right? We get to that place, right? And so if you've been here very many times, you know that I don't care if you look at your watch. It don't bother me. Let Jesus speak. Let's go for it. But here's the thing. Even if you're like, I wish you'd get done. I got a thing. I got to go. Come on. We could choose either to be all worked up over it, or we could choose to be content in it. And even though inside we're going, if we will just remember that, wait a minute, God's speaking, let's let him speak. Let's be content in this. Even when we have that job that's driving us absolutely 100% nuts and we're struggling, if we will choose to be content, even in the disruption, even in the frustration, even in the anger, which you're saying, how can you be content and be angry? You can't. You can't. I can't tell you the number of times, and you can ask Joe. I can't tell you, not right now. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been angry. I've been frustrated. I'm like, I can't believe, why can't we? And talking something with work. It's almost always with work, not this work, but almost, well, there's been times. But almost always it's been work related. I can't just, why? And sometimes it's family, but my side, not hers. And so, but the reality, what I've done, and you can ask her, is there's time I just have to give it to the Lord. I just have to give it to God because I can't do anything about it. I'm at wit's end because I've been trying to do it myself, right? We have to learn to be content. We have to choose to be content. It's like you choose, am I going to go watch TV or not, right? And you sit down and you kick back and all that, right? Tonight I'm going to relax. I'm going to watch a little TV, right? You also have that, it's a choice, right? I'm going to choose what I do. When it comes to being content is also a choice. So it's not any different than choosing if you're going to watch TV. And if you're going to watch TV, are we going to watch a Western tonight, or are we going to watch a cop movie tonight, right? What are we going to watch? What are we going to watch? A sitcom, which my wife and I, we don't, but I want to throw that in for those of you who do, right? And so, right, whatever that is that you watch, being content is a choice also. I can choose to sit down and complain and complain and complain and complain, and I used to be extremely proficient at that. And I'm not bragging on that. So thankful that God's changed that I don't just sit there and complain all the time anymore, because I've chosen to start being content. I don't understand it, Lord. I don't get it. I don't have to. You've got it. And we'll learn to be content We need to learn to be content, and if we'll choose to do that, that'll help joy filled when we're content even in the ugly stuff. Francis Jeffrey said, the tendency to whining and complaining may be taken as the surest symptom of little souls and inferior intellects. And some of you right now are going, oh, I can't believe he just said that to me. He said I had a little soul and an inferior intellect. Let me just tell you, I learned that about myself. I had a friend who told me, you don't win any arguments. He said, you're arguing. You're not going to win any arguments. Share your point and be done. It was back in the day when the F-bomb was one of my favorite words. It was back in the day when he said to me, you realize every time you use that word, every time you cuss, you lose about 10 IQ points off of your argument. And I used the F-bomb when I asked him what he was thinking, what he meant by that, right? And again, dropped 10 more IQ points. We don't win anything by being angry. We don't win anything by just going off on a tirade. We don't win anything by cussing and swearing. We don't gain a thing. We lose. Ever notice that sometimes when you sit there and you complain about something, and then you complain about it, and then you complain about it, and the whole time it's just getting worse, getting worse, getting worse, because you're focusing on it. All you're focusing on is the complaint. We're not focusing on a fix. We're not focusing on giving it to God. We're not focusing on being content in the situation. All we're doing is complaining and making it worse. Darn, Mom was right. My mom used to say that. All you're going to do is make it worse. You keep complaining, it's just going to be worse. It's worse on you, not on them. They don't even know. It's 4 verse 11. Paul, I said that we would be talking with Paul, or sharing some of Paul's writings. Paul says this in Philippians 4:11. He says, "Not that that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have." Do we remember Paul was shipwrecked, almost drowned? Remember the snake bite? Do we remember the rottings? Do we remember the lashings? Do we remember the stoning and left for dead? Do we remember those things about Paul? Yet Paul says, as we read over and over and over and over again in his epistles, he says, I've chosen to be content. I'm content in all things. I think he's a pretty good example for us to follow. And something else we might want to remember is, don't complain about what you don't have, what you aren't getting, or what you want. Be thankful that you're not getting what you deserve. God is so good to us. And there's something we deserve. Yet Jesus says, I'll take it. And he did. We got to learn to start being content and be thankful. Number 2, we become joy-filled by being thankful. We become joy-filled by being thankful. Complaining is an activity. Being thankful is an activity. And it's a choice. No matter what you choose, no matter what your situation, you have a choice. Am I going to complain about it, or am I going to be thankful within it and be content within it? Am I going to be thankful that God's given me another chance and another opportunity, or am I going to be complaining about, I got to do this, or I got to do that? The other day, I was out here, I was mowing. I did not have time to stop. I'm like, there was a pickup sitting here, and I just waved and I said, and the person sitting in there said, and so that meant they were okay then, right? And so I went and I mowed, but God prodded me the whole 20 minutes. I was out there mowing, right? He's like, you're going to stop, right? As I came up with the mower, I got my pick. I put the mower away, got my pickup. And as I came up, though, I knew I needed to stop. I said, Lord, if they're still sitting here when I get done with the mower, as I'm leaving, I'll stop and talk. There was a lady who was in her pickup, and as we talked, she'd been praying that God would bring someone to help her walk through some things. She had no idea this was a church. She thought it was an abandoned building. No matter what we do, it seems like it's always, everyone thinks it's an abandoned building. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to get some flashy lights and stuff. But the reality is, she thought it was an abandoned building. She thought I was just the caretaker coming to mow, and then I was going to be gone and on my way. And yet, we ended up having a conversation, and I was sharing with her, and she said, I just asked God about that. I just asked, help me understand this. Send someone who can explain this. Help me through this. Initially, I don't have time to stop. By the time we were done, there was 4 times that she said, God really did send you because I needed to hear that. This has been going on. And so over an hour and a half later, I left. And I was so thankful that I said, Lord, it's a disruption. I don't care, whatever. We're going to do it. And I did tell her at the end, I said, okay, my wife was texting me and apparently wants me to come home. And so I called because she knows how long it takes, right? And so anyway, will we be content? And will we choose to be thankful even in the disruption? Paul says in Ephesians 5:20, he says, and give thanks for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Give thanks in everything. Did you notice it says give thanks for everything? Not just the things I enjoy, not the things that make me smile, not the things that are cool, not the things that everyone will be proud of me for, but in everything, give thanks. And some of you are thinking, that it's just not practical in certain situations. It just doesn't work. But the reality is, some of you, maybe you've had that car that didn't start. You don't start it. You're going to have to replace the battery. You're going to have to replace the starter. You're going to have to replace whatever. Be thankful. You have a car that usually starts. And you have a car that it's going to cost you a little money, but you have a car. And there are a ton of people. I watch every day when I drive the route, literally every day on my way out of town, there's a gentleman walking into town, and he walks somewhere well beyond the Worthing turn. And he walks to town absolutely every morning. I bet he'd love to have your car. Next time you're complaining because the service is slow at the restaurant, be thankful you can afford to go to the restaurant, because I know quite a few people that through Love Inc., through the Ministerial Association, I know quite a few people that we help with food because they can't afford it. But you're able to afford to go to the restaurant. So how about instead we choose that joy thing, we put on the smile, and we say thank you, and we ask our server who's pouring our coffee, well, how about we ask them, how's your day going? You can't even come close to counting the number of times that I've done that, and when they tell me, and we end up in a conversation, and so many times we end up in prayer because they got something going on. The reason they're slow with the service is either they're taking care of the whole place by themselves, or them and one other person taking care of 40 people, or because they're distracted because what's going on at home, or there's been a couple of them that have lost their home and are living in their car, and they're sorry, they're really tired, but they can't sleep very well. How about instead we put on that thankfulness and that smile and that joy-filled heart and allow Jesus' love, his joy to overflow us to those around us? We're blessed to live in this country. We got so many things that we have elite services in this country. We are so blessed with so many things, whether it's the health care, which, yep, okay, it's overpriced. Okay, yeah, but we have it. Okay, the healthcare, the roads. Oh, they're always potholed. You know what I mean? We got the politicians. There's some of them are even Christian, right? And we got taxes, and some of you are like taxes. Well, Jesus said, "Give to Caesar what's Caesar's," right? And so anyway, right? And if you don't think we're blessed to have these things, how about you take a trip, go on a mission trip over to Liberia or most anywhere in Africa, or go maybe to many of those Asian countries, or maybe go to Mexico. I recommend San Rafael. You want to see some people living in joy, even though they have not 2 cents to rub together. Watch people with overflowing hearts for the Lord who literally live in a homemade, they put it together, pallets, like 4 or 5 pallets for a family of 4 to live in, right? Wood pallets with a tarp stretched over it. That's their home. But they come out and you talk to them, they're just beaming and smiling and just full of joy, and they love Jesus Christ. There are so many things we have, and we're not even thankful for them. We're not content in them, and we choose to be complainers and whiners. Matthew Henry said, he was a scholar, biblical scholar from the 1700s. He said he was robbed. He was robbed, and his wallet was taken from him. And he wrote in his journal about it. That's how we know what he said. But he wrote in his journal, he said, "Let me be thankful first because I was never robbed before." In other words, I've lived my life this far and never been robbed. Thank the Lord. Second, because although they took my wallet, they did not take my life. But thank God they left me alive. They can have the wallet. Third, because although they took all, he's thanking God, even though I didn't have much. They took it, that's fine, it took everything, but it wasn't very much. He was thankful for his not much. And fourth, because it was I who was robbed, not I who robbed. Thank God I'm not as desperate and feel the need to rob others. That's what he's saying. There's always something for us to be thankful for. We don't always have to be complainers and whiners. So don't just have a, whoo, that was close. Good thing it's only water. For those who helping you clean the carpet, it's fine. But let us be not just thankful just in our heart, but with our mouth as well. Let us give thanks to people. Let us do that. As I said before, like if you're at Lori's down here having coffee, and they come to fill your coffee, speak joyfully to them. Speak lovingly to them. Same thing with think about this. Think about this. The person who bags your groceries at Sunshine down here or wherever you're at, but down here they carry them to your car, right? Go to Walmart. No, they're not carrying them. Okay? Be thankful for them. Man, I don't know how many times I've seen people with grumpy Gus faces on there when the young people are or older people are carrying those groceries out, and they just get in their car and drive away. No, thank you. Well, that's their job. Sure, it's their job. Yep, they get paid for that. You know what's more valuable to them than their dollar and cents? Would be the joy in their heart that you give them when you overflow with Jesus' joy. It doesn't hurt to tip them. That's right. Push them right over. It's fine. No. And the endorphins are going again. And so, how about your garbage collectors? The guys coming to get your garbage, your trash, your recyclables. When was the last time you thanked them? I got people look at me funny because there'll be people like walking down the street, and I'll be out there when they're out there, and I'm like, "Hey, thanks, man, appreciate it, and have a great day," whatever, right? And people will be like, "You like talk to them?" Yeah, I talk to them. Think about what this world would be like if we didn't have any garbage haulers. Think about it. And don't forget to show gratitude to your family. Show gratitude to your kiddos. Show gratitude to your spouse. Show gratitude to your parents, whether you're living at home or not. Show gratitude. And obviously today, show gratitude to mom. Okay? Show gratitude. Let's show some love. Let's be joy-filled and overflowing. And finally, number 3, we become joy-filled by being joy-filled. We become joy-filled by being joy-filled. As I said earlier, a smile has the power to, it literally has the power to heal. It has the power to make you, make the pain go away. It has the power to make your heart full and overflowing. It has the power to take you from this place where I was a grumpy Gus earlier, but I chose to smile, to the place of I'm feeling Christ's joy all over my heart, all over my life, all over everywhere, and I'm sharing it with those around me. Let's choose, we become joy-filled by choosing to be joy-filled. It also, as I was looking, it says that, according to research, says that smiling, not even laughing, not even ha 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 ha, none of that, just smiling, according to their studies, which I'm not sure if I believe it because Solomon didn't say it, but it says that smiling increases your blood flow, reduces your blood pressure, and lowers stress. You live a stress-filled life? Try smiling. I don't have time to smile. I got stuff to do. Try smiling, right? I'm just saying, right? So you can actually, just with a smile, even if you're not really joy-filled in your heart, but even a smile, it says a fake smile even, you can trick your body into believing it's joy-filled. Again, sometimes you got to make it because some days are really hard. Some days are really hard. Part of why I use the humor with the in the messages, right? Because there's some of this stuff is like, man, this is really tough. I just don't want to listen to Pastor today. I don't even want to be here. He's lucky I showed up, right? I'm not lucky, but you are, and Jesus is, right? And Jesus is happy about it, right? So just choose to smile. I think Jesus smiled a lot. I really do. Think about this. Who did not want to be around Jesus? All the hateful, angry, vindictive, scheming people, right? The Pharisees, Sadducees, those who didn't like him, those who were jealous of him. Who wanted to be around him? The kids, right? Remember that? Kids go to what? They go to people they trust, right? With a child, they have that innate sense, and they could say, "You're smiling. You're a good spirits, joy-filled person." Kids will come to you all the time, right? And I believe I believe he smiled a lot. He had those kids around him all the time. He didn't have all that. I mean, I don't think the kids would have came to him if he was nicknamed Mr. Scowls, right? And so, I'm just saying, we need to smile. I don't know why kids don't like me. That's why, I'm just being honest with you. Andy Andrews said that your smile is your calling card. It is the most potent weapon you have. With your smile, you can forge bonds, break ice, and calm storms. Use your smile constantly. The power of who you are is revealed when you smile. Even as an overcomer, you smile. Why? Because you're being an overcomer. As a survivor, as a love-filled person, no matter where you're at, even when you're downtrodden, you're maybe mom's in for surgery, maybe whatever, your spouse is in for, right? But if you will smile, you can still spread the joy of Jesus Christ to those around you because you've chosen, God, this is yours. Here it is at the foot of your throne. I'm leaving it there. I'm going to go over here and be filled with the joy of Jesus Christ, because I know, even if my spouse doesn't make it, I know it's your plan, I know it's your will, I know you got it all under control. I'm going to be joy-filled. And some of you are like, Pastor wants Joe to die. No, not what I said, okay? But the reality is, if she was in the hospital and there was something going on, the reality is I will not allow myself to get all angry and frustrated and down. I watch people go down rabbit holes and go into bottles over and over again. I'm like, Lord, you got it. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. And I'm not trying to, if you're one of those, you get angry, you get down, you get all that, like, remember, okay, so I've been there, done that, right? Probably going to end up being angry again sometime in life here, right? I'm probably going to have a little bit of sadness in my life. It's probably going to happen, but I'm going to choose to smile. So I'm not trying to get on you about your emotions, because I want you to hear this and remember this. Lazarus died and Jesus wept. Remember that? We do, right? Jesus went. What did he do to the temple? He got all kinds of bent out of shape. Took his cords and made a lash out of them. He chased out the money changer. He was angry, right? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have the other emotions. But what we know is Jesus always had people around him who loved him and admired him, except for on that night when they all bailed on him. They still loved him, but they weren't there, right? But he always drew people to him. Why? Because he had the joy of Jesus Christ in him. He might have had an upper hand on that, right? I mean, he might have had an in, but King David struggled with depression. And read his Psalms. You read his Psalms, you can see it all over the place. There's depression all over in there. And how did he get through it? He came to the Lord. Psalm 30, verse 5. Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes with the morning. Jesus told his disciples in John 16:22, he said, what? He said, you have sorrow now, but I will see you again. Then you will rejoice, and no one can rob you of that joy. He's saying, yep, you're going to get sad. It's okay. David said, no, dude, I'm scared for my life. He said over and over again, I'm scared for my life. Why don't you just take me out of this? Job was another one like, oh, would you just why was I born, right? That's not wrong. What do we do with it, though? Take it to God. Take it to God and choose to smile. John Powell said this. He said, learn to laugh at yourself, and you'll never cease to be amused. Sometimes we need to learn to laugh at ourselves. So I choose to laugh at myself, because otherwise none of you will. So, otherwise, but no, so we need to, it's okay, right? We need to laugh at ourselves. We need to let that joy go all over the place and not think that we're up here somewhere where Jesus is at, instead of being where we are, where God's got us at. We need to be able to laugh at ourselves. We need to trust that you know what, it's going to be okay, and God's got it. It's in His hands. Ecclesiastes 3, Solomon wrote. In verse 1, he said, for everything there is a reason, or is a season, a time for every activity under heaven. And in verse 4, he said, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance. Maybe the dance of joy. Maybe, right? There's always, there's times for everything. There's times for everything. There's a proverb, I'm told it's a Cherokee one. I was told it's been by different authors. I don't know who really wrote it, but it's one that has become very, very commonplace in funerals when I have a funeral or a memorial service, whatever. It says this: it's when you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. If you were to die right now, is the world rejoicing or crying? If you were to die right now, would the world rejoice, thank God the grumpy Gus is gone? Or would they cry, I'm never going to see that smile again? Romans 4, verse 7 and 8 says this, Oh, what joy for those whose obedience is forgiven, whose sins are put out of sight. Yes, what joy for those whose record the Lord has cleared of sin. What joy. What joy. Father God.